Hello everyone and welcome to the Advanced Magia guide on how to generate MP. First off, there are five different ways on how you can generate MP in Magia Record. The first one is attacking someone. The second one is getting attacked. The third one is Accele combo. The fourth one is MP restore. You need to be careful with the names because the names are very particular. And the fifth one is MP start, or as it's also called on the wiki, MP increase. So first off, what are all of those? I mean, the first three are kind of self-explanatory, but what is MP restore versus MP start, aka MP increase? MP restore are effects similar to what Magia does, where if you use the connect, it just says give someone 30 MP. The important part here is it gives a flat 30 MP. There are a handful of other effects that do this, but it's mostly connect, it's some magias, and that's the main sources on how you get MP restore. The other part, MP start, aka MP increase, is what happens when you have a memoria like this that says MP gauge increased on battle start and then some percentage full. The important part here is that it is a percentage of your maximum gauge. What this means is that if you have Magia level somewhere between like 1 through 4, this means that your Magia that you can get goes up to 100 MP. And if it goes all the way up to 100 MP, 10% of that is 10, as you would expect. But if you have Magia level 5, then it actually goes all the way up to 200 MP, and 10% of 200 MP is 20. So getting Magia level 5 and unlocking your Magia bar to 200 actually makes effects like this twice as powerful. The important bit here is that some people get mixed up is the character doesn't need to have a doppel. This works on any character. Every single character in the game, even Kuro, once Kuro reaches Magia level 5, will be unlocked to 200 MP. Now, while on the North American servers there is quite a limited way of actually getting MP start, I mean there's the stories that started serious, then Metamask Personal, which is 15% full, a handful of people actually get a free spirit enhancement on the Japanese server, which will come to North American server probably later this year. So a handful of other people will be able to get, if you have 200 MP, 30 MP on start, including Rena, who is actually pretty lols, because Rena could very easily get turn 2 Magia. Amazing. So yeah, those are like things that needed a little bit of clearing up at first. So if we think about, okay, we're going to go into a stage, we're going to have a Magia team, we're going to have an Accele team, we want to create a team that will have a whole bunch of Magia. The important bit is, of course, how do we generate all of that MP? Of course, as already mentioned, MP restores are really awesome. They can just give people a whole bunch of MP. For example, Magia is amazing at that, who has 2 effects that can do that. MP start is a really amazing effect as well. But how do we get even more? Of course, there's Accele combos. Accele combos give every single character on your side of the field 20 MP. Even if they weren't actually part of the combo, they still gain 20 MP, which is pretty darn amazing. Now, moving further, we need to actually worry about how much MP do we actually get when we attack someone or when we get attacked. And I've not really talked much about MP discs, or Accele discs, sorry, like MP generation through Accele discs, because I usually just talk about blast, because that's just what most people are doing. And with Accele discs, it's pretty much just use Accele discs, and if you get an Accele combo, awesome. If not, you just generate MP until you can use Magia. But there's still quite a bunch of stuff that you can worry about when it comes to Accele discs. First off, here's a table. This is a very important table that I'll explain to you what it actually means. So, first off, we look at the left few columns right here, the left 3. First disc, second disc, and third disc. What does that mean? So when you use an Accele disc, it doesn't just generate a whole bunch of MP, and no matter in which situation you use it, the situation in which you use the Accele disc actually matters. More specifically, what disc it is. If it's the first disc, it generates less Accele than if it's the third disc. It's similar to how Blast works, where the later the disc, the more powerful it actually becomes. So with Accele, you can see if you are in a quest, so if you're in PvE and you use an Accele disc, which is the A right here, so Accele disc, as the first disc generates 7 MP. If it's the second disk, it generates 10.5. If it's the third disk, it generates 14. Or you could say the base value is 7, and then it increases by 50% and another 50%, depending on which disk it is. So I could just use blast blast and then Accele, and the third Accele, since it's on disk 3, will give you 14 MP. This is also something that applies to charge in some way, but not to the actual charges themselves, but also the MP that charge generates. So while Accele has a base generation of 7, Accele has a base generation, charge has a base generation of 2. So it's 2, then another 50%, and another 50%, or just in general, from first to third disk, it gets twice as powerful how much MP it generates, which is pretty darn hefty, amazing, nice. And in mirrors, it is actually more. In mirrors, you generate 50% more, which is awesome. Like 50% on the base amount. So the base amount is 50% higher, and then from there, you get another 50% scaling through third disk. Amazing. But wait, there's more. As you can see, of course, blast disks by themselves don't generate any MP, but if some people, or a lot of people probably already know this, but if you use Accele as the first disk in your combo, it actually does something special, similar to how it works in Fake Run Order, where the first disk actually sort of makes the entire combo magical. But in Magia Record, that only works with Accele disks. Using a charge disk first does nothing. Using a blast disk first does nothing. Only if you use an Accele disk first, something special will happen. And what is that special? Well, if you use an Accele as the first disk, every single disk will generate +3 MP. So as you can see from, if the first disk is an Accele, it goes from 7 to 10, which is weird. But why does this right here, why does this 7 even exist? If you use it as the first disk, it already becomes this. Someone explain that to me. Anyway, a second disk, if the first disk was an Accele disk, then the second disk is an Accele disk. It gets another +3, it becomes 13.5, wow. But if the second disk is a blast disk, there you go, 0 plus 3, that's 3. 3 plus 3, yeah, that's 6. So yeah, it just gives you +3 for all of the disks that are being used if the combo starts with an Accele disk. Same in mirrors, it just does +3, which means that in mirrors, the third Accele, if the third disk is an Accele disk and the first was also an Accele disk, you will get 24 MP, which is pretty darn awesome. So if you imagine a combo like ACA, you also get the charge bonus. And I'm going to skip past this right here and go to the charge bonus, because this was actually not actually part of the other table that I showed you, with the charge table on like this many charges give you that much bonus, and this many charges give you that much bonus for blast and Accele and stuff. I erroneously told you that you got that what it told you in that table for Accele was also the bonus that you got for MP. That is not true. You actually gain a lot more MP with charges, as you can see. And there's something weird here, where on lower charges it increases rather quickly. So around 3 charges is like where the money point is, where it's good sweet spot for using a lot of these Accele disks with charges. And then it slows down for some reason. So it increases fast, then it increases slow for some reason. I don't know why. It's punishing you for having more charge disks. Someone tell me why the scaling gets weaker when it's harder to get to higher charge points. Why is charge so bad? I don't understand. Like, this is just the numbers being terrible. It's harder to get further down, but the numbers get weaker as it goes down. I don't understand. Like, the difference between numbers gets lower and lower until you reach around 12, where suddenly it gets fast again. So if you had like if you like graph this out, it would like increase really quickly at first, then slow down for some reason, really slow, and then at the end it would suddenly go up really fast again. What is the scaling? The scaling makes absolutely no sense. Whatever, let's just charge, dude. Let's just charge. So yeah, this charge bonus goes on top of this as a multiplier. So for example, you get 24 right here. If we go back to this combo that I said, this ACA combo, you get a modifier of 1.3, so that final Accele disk would do 24 times 1.3. That's a number, that's pretty good, right? That's actually pretty darn good. But there's more. There's actually more that goes into this, because you also have the Accele Up. So if you have this buff, the Accele MP Gain Up, what happens is you just, all of the MP that you gain by using Accele discs gets multiplied. For example, if Rika connects with you, not only do you become really gay, you also gain 45% more MP through all Accele discs. So all of your Accele discs, all of these A's right here, wherever it says A, all of these, 45% more. Amazing, wow. So in that ACA combo, that first A would have 45% more, so it's 13.5 times 1.45. And then this final one, this 24, would also not just have the charge bonus of 30% more, it would then also on top of that have 45% multiplicatively, this is actually multiplicative, from the XMP Gain Up. Wow, that's a lot. That's like maybe even 50 MP or something. Wow, that's amazing. Probably even more than 50 MP. This is amazing. In mirrors though, and we already know that while this sounds awesome for mirrors, I do need to tell you another thing that's not on this page, but I already told you before. In mirrors, all Magias and Doppels only deal half damage, and of course Accele discs themselves deal less damage, while blast discs also deal less damage, but not quite as little, which means that blast discs are actually like still the most powerful discs in mirrors. And even if you get a turn 3 Magia on turn 3, the entire match is probably already decided anyway. So Accele discs are still bad for PvP until later stuff happens with Spirit Enhancement, but we don't have to worry about Spirit Enhancement right now until the mirror meta changes. But for now, as you can see, oh wow, it's pretty good in mirrors, but all of these effects with charge discs and with XMP Gain Up, this gives you quite a big bonus to increase the number of MP you can generate. This is how you generate a lot of MP, but what happens if you get attacked? So if you get attacked, what happens is you actually just generate a base of 4 MP. You just get 4 MP whenever you get attacked. However, on top of that, there's some type bonus we don't care about, and also you get an additional bonus if you have this amazing Memoria that is called a Victory Tea. So if you have Victory Tea, you actually get even more. So for example, if you have a Maximal Break Victory Tea, it gives you like 6 extra MP. So if you get attacked with Weak Element, it's not just 4 MP, it's 10 MP, which sucks. But that's something that's amazing. But also there's this type modifier that is actually not very important at all. Like I've been memeing around this video, dancing around this type modifier. But memes aside, this is something that not that many people are that aware about. Of course, characters have a type, as it shows right here. I've talked about this before, where it's like, oh, this is a Magia character, this is a defense character, this is a support character, a heal character, blah blah. And I've just said, well, for example, attack characters just tend to have high attack. Magia characters tend to be focused around actually using their Magia, as in they have good Magia, for example. Or defense characters have a lot of defense. I've just said these things because usually they're true, but there actually is a gameplay mechanic centered around the type. This one gameplay mechanic, and this is this one, where you actually gain more or less MP depending on what you do, depending on what your type is. However, this is the important bit that I need to say right away, this only applies to attacking or being attacked. So this entire table up here gets multiplied with some modifier depending on what your type you are, and if you get attacked, and I told you that the base is 4, that also gets multiplied by whatever type you are. The reason why I say this is not that important is because if you remember the list earlier with these 5 points, Accele combo does not get increased by this. Accele combos will always deal 20. MP restore, like when Madoka connects with you, is always 30. Doesn't get increased by this. If you have MP start, like if you start with 30 MP, that doesn't get increased by this table at all. And when you actually play a Magia team, an Accele team that's focused on using Magia, you probably are using MP restore. Maybe some of the characters have MP start. You're probably using a lot of Accele combos, and none of these actually get increased. So right off the bat, we can already tell, well, these bonuses must be amazing for them to have any sort of impact whatsoever. And then it turns out, yeah, it's just like 20% bonus if you're a Magia type compared to a heal type, like 120 compared to 100. It's not that much. I mean, I have actually made some calculations. Let's say, for example, we have Rika, who is a Magia type. She uses an Accele combo by herself. Amazing. She gets a total of 66.8 MP. I've done the maths. Then Rena comes in, and Rena's like, I'm gonna do an Accele combo. I'm not quite as gay as you are, Geeka, but I can still Accele combo. Wow. So she does an Accele combo, and she gets 60.5. That's a difference of about 6 MP. Which, I mean, it is a 10% difference between the two, from 66 to 60. But at the same time, 20 of that came from the Accele combo, and everyone else on that team also got 20. Imagine if they weren't part of that Accele combo. They'd still just get 20. Imagine if Wildcard connects with them, they still get 20. It's 30, I mean. So, while it is cool to see that, hey, there is actually a difference. Like Magia type characters, they will get more by attacking and by getting attacked. But like I said, the main focus of generating lots of MP usually comes from Accele combos and MP restore, and since those don't get increased, yeah, whatever. You can also see that Ultimate is a special type in here. These numbers are a bit weird sometimes. For example, Defense doesn't get that much MP at all, like even when getting attacked, and you would assume that at least when they get attacked they would get 120, or maybe they would get more when they attack themselves, so they can like get some Magia out. But because they don't really have that much attacking percentage, it's actually a lot more difficult for them to get Magia out, which is retroactively why Sana's even worse than I thought. I mean, she's still good, but a bit worse. And Balance just has 90-90, I mean, okay. Magia, at least it makes sense that they have this high, and Support, it also kind of makes sense that they're this high. But yeah, like I said, most of this doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, that was most of what you need to know when it comes to generating a lot of MP. You can, by the way, this is the page of just on discs, if you want to find this on the wiki. That tells you a whole bunch of stuff. Even though this is just the page on discs, for some reason it has all of the MP calculation stuff in it. They just slammed this into the disk page for some reason, just making it its own page. This should be its own page somehow, with even more info, like what happens when you get attacked or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.